Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we're good. What's this boat?
So what's this boat? Yeah, maybe I was thinking we should just maybe start today looking at some background on the boat itself. Okay, so we know that that's this ship is leaving today at 9 p.m. according to the
Mhm.
Maersk website. Um,
And it's not the MSC Erica, it's the MSC
so MSC Venice,
Venice. All right.
Liberian flagged, built 2015. And it's on the service line AE55, which I think is Asia Europe 55.
Okay.
Let me check. Far East Asia to Europe services AE55. So it's
So the
owned
Red
by
D39
C39
leasing company,
Leasing.
who are classically are registered in Hong Kong, but their address is in Geneva.
Yeah, so MSC is the caretaker company,
Yeah.
and then
And they only have one, so C39 only has one ship as owner, apparently.
yeah,
Although that seems a little sus. I think if I had many companies that were all registered to one ship, and I didn't want to lose track of the names of those companies, I might call them things like C39 Leasing Co.
yeah.
But
Do you think there's a C38? We can
just
look it
find
up.
out. C38. Yes, there is, and it's
There
based in
is.
Switzerland. Yeah,
So does that mean that
this is
MSC?
C37. Oh, how do we go?
Wait. Can you show me that? I think we might have to manually check if at least up until 39, all those subsidiaries exist. Um, so I think we are looking at the right vessel on the cam tonight.
Although, hilariously, the webcam has broken. Like if you look at what it's
Yes,
like
I
now.
wanted to ask you
Yeah,
if it was
yeah.
just my computer, but it was working like 40 minutes ago. If you
No,
go back,
yeah. I can see it. I can see the it's panning over the MSC ship now.
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of very funny that the departure of the ship on the green corridor is replaced by just a blank green screen.
Yeah. No, that is funny. Let me just check the webcams.
Let's go back to the journey. So it's going to Le Havre and it gets there tomorrow evening. It then leaves Le Havre 3 days to Algeciras, that's like southern Spain, right? Leaves Algeciras 2 o'clock on the 16th, so that's on Saturday. 5 day trip to Suez, stops at King Abdullah Port, which is going to be Saudi Arabia. Goes down to Salalah, Oman. It's making a stop in Oman, and then from there straight shot to Singapore.
It's beautiful footage, though.
Yeah, it is.
Oh shit!
Whoa!
What the fuck?
Damn, you recorded that, right?
Yeah, it's
Sick.
recording.
That's crazy.
What the fuck? It just like total reset. At first, I thought it was because I did something with my phone. It's beautiful.
All right, cool. So, do you want to look at some of the stuff of our boat yesterday, and then
Yeah, I'd love to see what you got up to.
discuss, and then maybe just go through some of these documents that we pulled about, like the Green Corridor, about the leveraging synergy stuff, and these slides that I found. First of all, where's our boat now? Is it still in the half? Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there. Yeah, so you read the stuff about the Clydebank Declaration.
I read a bit about it, but remind me what the Clydebank Declaration is.
So that was the 19 countries signed at COP, a declaration signed by 19 countries at COP26, which aims to support the establishment of at least 6 green corridors by the middle of this decade. The notion of establishing a green corridor, to me, doesn't mean much more than just like signing an MOU.
And the Singapore Rotterdam Green Corridor, the MOU for that got signed like last year, right?
Yes. I think it's fairly recent. I don't even think it's a year old. I think it was maybe it was like early 2022. I've only found like the announcements and the press releases, but I haven't found like the substance of what it means that they're doing a green corridor. It's
this, surprisingly like little actual kind of like plans or timelines or dates like attached to like bunkering infrastructure on any of this. But do you want to talk about the leveraging synergies doc?
So this was from the American Bureau of Shipping, actually, the classification company. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, go on.
And it's just an overview of green shipping corridors, what they are, what they mean by green, what they mean by corridor, both of which are actually really interesting when they start to like unpack it. So they did this green corridor port facility readiness analysis, where they identified 14 ports to begin with that were identified as being part of potential green corridors. So Antwerp, LA, Rotterdam, Dampier, I don't know where that is. Is that Australia?
Canada,
Montreal.
maybe?
Yeah, maybe possibly.
Montreal's right there. Go on.
Seattle, Houston, etc. 2 ports in Japan, Singapore, Vancouver. And then they list like all these port facilities that you would need, so across power supply, and then bunkering of all the different fuels. And as you can see, Singapore is in almost every single one. Then they look at, so from the above table, Singapore port has the greatest number of port facilities available, followed by Rotterdam. So I think that's already quite telling.
What's interesting is that in this doc, we almost like, so there's 2 things in this what does green mean paragraph that I jumped out, which is first is that they say like, certain green corridors may be fuel and technology agnostic, i.e. they take the most liberal interpretation of a green corridor. So basically like disregarding any of the actual kind of like material basis for it being like actually environmentally friendly. What counts as green is kind of like yet to be defined, and it's going to be defined by what they go on to say in the paragraph after, which is that this approach should be technology agnostic to allow for all the ideas to germinate, and then it's a matter of execution. The definition will keep evolving, and eventually market forces and success of these corridors will clarify and solidify the definition. So they're ostensibly like saying that, or they're explicitly saying that like the terms of what green means are ultimately just like up to the kind of like invisible hand of the market and whatever shifters kind of decide it will be. But that ultimately is going to be based on like who is the most successful, right, within that corridor.
Let me just get a nicer isolate this window. Right, you still see?
Yeah, I can see.
All right, cool. All right, where's our boat? So we are off the coast of Sicily. We're in this, like, I guess big Mediterranean lane.
Yeah.
These are all fishers, yeah. And then, damn, what's happening here? Oh, it's Malta. All right, cool. So we're going to go past Malta, and then, it's going to hit the Suez on, what, the 22nd?
Yeah, you said 4 days, and that was yesterday or something.
Here we go.
I see. This is the view. Yeah, that's cool.
Forecast.
Is there actually a stop at Suez, or?
I'm not sure, because I think that it's... Well, yeah, there must be, because most boats would say... I don't know. I mean, let's look at one going into Suez, see if that also has a Suez stop. Yeah, that's got Suez stop.
Probably.
That's got Suez stop.
That could be a refueling place as well. Let me check. I mean, that was one of my questions on a voyage from Rotterdam to Singapore. Would you have to refuel? And if so, where would you be most likely to do it? Because I think that's another good question for the corridor is like, we're thinking about Rotterdam and Singapore, but there's clearly so many other players at stake depending on the route. And like, are they involved in the corridor, or is this only about the infrastructures at the, let's say, like beginning and end points?
Yeah, and you get all the way on one.
And wouldn't you be more likely to have to refuel with these alternatives, like with methanol, than with heavy fuel oil? The Green Fuel Alliance is planning to develop a 350,000 tons per year green ammonia facility to be used as bunkering fuel to service the Suez Canal maritime traffic. Expected to be operational first phase 2026, second phase 2030.
Do you have any sense of how far along it is?
No, I mean, this picture looks like some kind of render or just current photo.
Everything's a render. Literally the only photo I've seen of this actually, of any like green fuel bunkering operation happening, is the one in Rotterdam of the ship pulling up next to it and doing the barge to barge one, right?
Idara are the one who are building the e-methanol bunkering facility in Rotterdam. But they're building this thing called the AMR, Advanced Methanol Rotterdam. Construction should begin next year, subject to permit. Their fuel production seems largely to be based around just like burning unrecyclable waste. So unrecyclable waste gets pelletized. Those pellets then act as a feedstock. And they have this technology that they say can extract methanol from the burning of that. What is interesting though is that it says that the company was founded in 2019, but there's a patent registered with the patent office in Ireland under that name for that process, which came out in 2012, which implies that this has actually been planned for like a lot longer, right? Or that this technology was patented and it was just simply a case of like finding a context in which you can make a use case for it in order to attract like further investment, right? But yeah, I want to look more into the methanol production, because if it is literally just like burning trash, then that is interesting.
There's this like Indian maritime school that has these online tutorials, and one of them is about dual fuel, like really from the seafarer's perspective, like how to really, the labor that would go into managing it like on board, which I think is also an interesting part of this story that maybe we haven't talked about as much, is like the work that it takes and how it's different to manage it.
I've seen that places are offering, as part of the kind of green corridor, prospectuses, they talk about like having to retrain the ship workers to be able to deal with the fuel safely, because like,
yeah, I mean, I think retraining is like a massive issue.
Yeah, and methanol it's dangerous, right? This is more flammable than HFO. It can, yeah.
Yep.
So, the regulation is called Regulation of the European Parliament and of the Council on the Use of Renewable and Low Carbon Fuels in Maritime Transport. This is a regulation that targets the market uptake of renewable fuels. And I think that that's really important, because it's not mutually exclusive that you would start having a larger uptake of renewable fuels as you would also keep having like the same level of fossil fuel emissions, if that makes sense. Like that could just be an expansion of one market whilst another market also keeps growing. It looks to a reduction of the yearly average GHG intensity of the energy used on board a ship during a certain reporting period. Mm-hmm. And here you can already see this argument that I've said so many times, but the fact that like the fuel efficiency per ship is not a measure that will ever target overall emissions reductions, because you could have a growing fleet with more efficient ships, right? In my reading, at least, you might have a situation where there's full compliance, but emissions are still going up. So the pooling mechanism states that companies should be allowed to pool the performances of different ships. To that effect, it should be possible to use the overperformance of one ship to compensate the underperformance of other ships, provided that the total pooled compliance is positive. So you get to average out bad ships in a fleet with like one excellent ship. And there's an interesting article in Splash, which is all about how there are opportunities to grasp if you understand the full implications of these measures, and also that you can profit from them. And so what they found, one example is the potential to offset an entire fleet or pool's penalties with just a few overperforming vessels. According to Lloyd's Register, a pool of 10 box ships could avoid around $300 million in penalties if they're joined by a single e-methanol vessel, which likely outweighs the cost of building one methanol container ship. The second example from this Finnish consultant worked out that under Fuel EU Maritime's current setup, it would be possible to have a fleet of 65 vessels using traditional HFO against one vessel using e-methanol.
I mean, if one ship can offset the emissions of 65, then why not set up a company that just leases green ships for the purpose of carbon compliances for companies who, in order to who always operate at the threshold of getting fined, but can just these ones could provide a safety net for people to avoid that.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like there's just tons of ways that new markets kind of get actually produced through this.
Now that I've kind of dug into the EU one, because I think it's safe to assume whatever you think about the actual quality of this regulation, and the EU loves to always guilt trip the rest of the world to say fine, if no one else will do it, we'll be the most ambitious. That's always somewhere implied, because they talk a lot about how it's easy to make the case that this is hurtful for the competitiveness of EU ship operators if they're bound by a lot more stringent rules, and then they'll always end up being I guess the EU has to show the way, whatever. But the IMO has set goals for actual emissions reductions. They do exist, but that's a shifting. It's the more compliance there is, the less it actually is about emissions reductions.